The stars stretched endlessly across the black sky as the ship Aurora slid out of faster travel. Inside, Aaron sat by the viewing glass, staring at the great planet below. Its surface glowed with green continents and wide blue seas, but what caught his eye most was the golden shimmer in orbit. Enormous alien structures floated there, shining like crowns around the world. It was the first time a human had been invited to this empire's heart, and Aaron had been chosen as the envoy. Aaron was not a soldier, not a noble, and not even the highest of scholars. He was a traveler, a man who had spent years moving between outposts and stations, learning how to solve problems without fighting. Perhaps that was why the Human Council had sent him. The alien empire was strong, proud, and old, and humans needed someone who could speak honestly without arrogance. When the ship docked with the station above the planet, Aaron stepped out into a hall of shining stone and crystal. Alien guards stood on both sides. They were tall, with silver blue skin and eyes that reflected light like mirrors. Each guard carried a spear that looked more ceremonial than practical, but Aaron could feel the power of the Empire in their stance. He walked calmly, his boots making a soft sound on the polished floor. Other envoys from different worlds were present, each trying to impress the Empire with gifts and flowery words. Aaron carried nothing but a small device at his belt, a translator that let him speak their language clearly. When the great doors opened, Aaron entered the main hall. It was larger than any human building he had ever seen. Towers of crystal rose inside the chamber, and the ceiling displayed shifting lights that looked like living constellations. At the center sat the emperor and his family. They were dressed in flowing garments of deep blue and gold, and each wore a crown of thin metal that glowed softly. Among them sat Princess Myra. She was younger than the rest, though her posture was calm and noble. Her silver blue eyes studied every envoy that came forward. Most bowed too deeply, or spoke in long praises that filled the hall with empty sound. Myra listened politely, but her gaze wandered. When Aaron's turn came, he did not kneel to the floor. He bowed his head respectfully but kept his back straight. His words were simple. I come from Earth. I am not here to flatter you with gifts or songs. I am here to speak openly, and to listen. Our people wish for friendship, not chains. A stir went through the hall. Some envoys whispered in shock. Speaking so directly to the emperor was unthinkable to many. But the emperor raised a hand, silencing the room. His sharp eyes studied Aaron for a long moment, and then he gave the faintest nod. Princess Myra leaned forward slightly, curiosity shining in her gaze. This human was unlike the others. He did not hide behind words, nor did he try to look greater than he was. He stood small in their vast hall, yet unafraid. The gathering continued, with envoys from other species presenting jewels, art, or strange machines. Aaron remained quiet, observing. His chance to speak again came later, when a problem broke out. A group of human traders had been allowed to land on the surface earlier, but now alien guards accused them of breaking rules and trying to sell goods without permission. Voices rose, tension building in the hall. Some nobles demanded the humans be punished, while the traders shouted that it was a mistake. The emperor frowned, ready to end the matter with a harsh order. But Aaron stepped forward before he could speak. May I ask to hear both sides clearly? Aaron said, his voice calm. The guards looked surprised, but the emperor gave another small nod. One guard explained that the traders had moved goods out of their ship before receiving proper clearance. The traders answered that they thought clearance had already been granted by a lower officer. Aaron thought for a moment, then asked simple questions. Did the lower officer give a sign or words of approval? Yes, the traders replied. Did the guards receive that same record? No, the guards answered. Aaron turned to the emperor. This is a failure of record, not of respect. Punishment would create anger between our people. Instead, if both sides agree, let the goods be held until proper papers are made. No one loses face, and no one loses trust. The hall grew quiet. Nobles whispered again, but this time their tone was different. The solution was simple, yet it honored both sides without weakness. The emperor leaned back on his throne, considering, then gave a slow nod. It will be so, he declared. The tension melted away, and the traders bowed in relief. Aaron returned to his place, calm as before. Princess Myra's eyes lingered on him. She had seen many leaders argue for hours over smaller matters. Yet this human, with no crown and no great power, had solved it with a few questions. He did not shout, he did not demand, he only looked for the truth and gave it plainly. When the gathering ended, Myra walked with her family out of the hall. Her mind, however, was not on the words of nobles or the display of treasures. It was on the quiet figure of the human who spoke with courage but not pride. She felt something new, a spark of interest that she could not explain. That night, in her private chamber, Myra stood by her balcony, looking at the stars. She thought of how Aaron's voice had sounded firm yet gentle. She thought of his eyes, steady and unafraid. Her world was full of people who obeyed rules and traditions without question. But this human, he walked in their hall as if he belonged, though no one had told him so. For the first time in her life, Princess Myra found herself admiring someone not for his rank, not for his wealth, but for the strength of his spirit. And far above, on the human ship Aurora, Aaron sat alone by the glass, unaware that a princess of a mighty empire was thinking of him. He only wondered what new challenges tomorrow might bring. The meeting was over, but something had begun, something far greater than he yet understood. The next morning, the halls of the empire shone bright with golden light as the sun of the alien world rose over the great city. From the high windows of the palace, the capital stretched endlessly below, filled with towers shaped like spirals and streets that glowed faintly with energy. Aaron had been given a chamber in one of the guest wings. It was far grander than anything he had known, yet he felt uneasy inside it. His room was quiet, almost too quiet, and the walls were decorated with symbols he did not understand. Aaron walked out into the gardens after sunrise. The air was fresh, carrying the scent of unknown flowers, and strange birds with crystal-like wings glided above. He carried a small notebook where he liked to record thoughts and sketches. Though he was a guest of the empire, he never stopped being a traveler who observed the world. It was there, among the tall trees with glowing leaves, that he saw Princess Myra again. She was standing near a fountain, speaking with two attendants. When she noticed Aaron, her eyes lit up, though her face remained calm as tradition required. She dismissed the attendants with a soft word and stepped toward him. "You rise early for a human," she said. Aaron gave a small smile. "Old habit. My work often required me to wake before others. The world always feels honest in the early hours." Myra tilted her head, curious at the phrase. "Honest? How can a world be honest?" Aaron pointed at the sky. "Before the noise of the day begins, you see things as they are. The air is clear, the ground is still. No one is pretending." Her silver blue eyes watched him closely. Most beings she met spoke in polished words to please her, but he spoke as if sharing a simple truth with a friend. She found herself wanting to hear more. "Tell me," Myra asked, is it true that humans can choose freely who they marry? Even those without noble blood? Aaron nodded. Yes. It is not always simple, but the choice belongs to the people involved, not their families or councils. Love is not commanded. It is found. Myra's lips curved slightly, though not into a full smile. She thought about how in her empire, marriages among nobles were arranged for power or alliance. To hear of another way felt strange, almost impossible. Yet the way he said it carried no doubt. As they walked through the garden, Myra asked more about Earth. Aaron described wide oceans that covered most of the planet, mountains that pierced the clouds, and cities filled with millions of voices. He told her how humans built machines that crossed space even without ancient empires to guide them. Myra listened with keen attention. "You speak of your people with pride," she said. "I speak with honesty," Aaron replied. "We are not perfect. We make mistakes, sometimes terrible ones. But we also learn. We try again. That is what makes us human." His words struck her more deeply than he knew. Her people were powerful, yes, but bound by old traditions that rarely allowed change. She had always accepted it, yet something in her heart stirred when she heard of a race that could bend, adapt, and grow. Later that day, an accident occurred that brought her admiration even higher. During a demonstration in the palace courtyard, a group of young scholars displayed a new communication device that connected over long distances. The device, shaped like a silver orb, began to spark and hum out of control. The scholars panicked, for the orb carried unstable energy that could explode. Guards rushed forward, but their training told them to retreat and wait for higher command. Aaron did not wait. He stepped quickly to the orb, pulling tools from the small pouch he always carried. His fingers worked swiftly, opening the casing with nothing more than a sharp piece of metal. Sparks flew, and a hiss filled the air. Myra, standing nearby, felt her chest tighten with fear. No one else moved closer, but the human crouched calmly before the danger. "What is he doing?" one noble whispered in alarm. "He is going to get himself destroyed," another muttered. But Myra watched carefully. Aaron studied the device with quick eyes, then used two wires from his own communicator to redirect the energy. He pressed a panel, and the orb slowly dimmed until it went quiet. The courtyard was silent for a long moment. Then the scholars let out a cheer of relief, and even the guards lowered their weapons. Aaron stood, brushing dust from his hands as if nothing great had happened. Myra walked forward, her gaze steady. "How did you know what to do?" she asked. Aaron shrugged. "I did not know fully. But machines follow rules, even alien ones. If you look long enough, you can see the pattern. And if you can see the pattern, you can find the way to calm it." His explanation was so simple, yet so bold. Myra could not stop herself this time. Her lips curved into a true smile. That night, Myra sat again by her balcony, replaying the scene in her mind. She had grown up surrounded by scholars who studied for centuries, nobles who carried themselves with pride, and soldiers who trained with precision. Yet none of them had acted as swiftly or calmly as the human who had no crown, no ancient name, and no claim to greatness. She admired not only his skill but his spirit. He did not act for glory or reward. He acted because it was right, because someone had to step forward when others stood still. The more she thought about it, the more she felt the stirrings of something she had never known. Admiration, yes, but also a warmth she could not easily name. She found herself wanting to hear his voice again, wanting to ask more about his people, wanting to see how he would answer questions that others avoided. In her empire, many looked at humans as young and untested. But Myra saw something else. She saw courage that did not depend on age, wisdom that came from experience rather than titles, and a heart that seemed unafraid of standing alone. The stars above the balcony shimmered in the night, but Myra's eyes were fixed on a single thought. The human was different. The human was rare. And though she did not yet understand the path ahead, she knew one thing with certainty: her admiration for Aaron was no passing moment. It was the beginning of something far greater. The days that followed were filled with meetings and ceremonies. Delegates from many worlds continued to present their offers of alliance to the emperor. Some brought wealth, others brought rare minerals, and still others offered fleets of ships in exchange for favor. Aaron often remained quiet in these gatherings, but his calm presence had not gone unnoticed. Princess Myra found herself looking for him whenever she entered a hall. She told herself it was curiosity. She wanted to learn about his world, about humans and their ways. Yet deep inside, she knew it was more than curiosity. Something about him drew her in. His words were simple, but they carried strength. His actions were steady, yet they revealed courage. On the fifth day, a storm broke over the city. Heavy rain fell on the crystal towers, and lightning flashed across the sky. Myra used this chance to invite Aaron to one of the smaller halls of the palace, a place not crowded with nobles or guards. It was a quiet chamber with tall windows that looked over the glowing city below. When Aaron entered, he bowed his head politely. "You asked to see me, Princess?" Myra nodded, her hands folded before her. "Yes. I wished to speak without the noise of the council." Aaron stepped closer, his eyes meeting hers with calm respect. "I will answer what I can." For a moment she studied him. The storm outside lit the room with flickers of light, and his figure stood steady in the glow. She thought of the times she had spoken with him, his words about honesty, his quick action in the courtyard, his stories of Earth where people chose their own paths. All of it had settled deeply in her heart. Finally she spoke. "Among my people, marriage is not a choice of the heart. It is an arrangement of power. But I find myself thinking of a different way. So I ask you a question that no human has likely heard before." Aaron tilted his head slightly, waiting. Myra drew in a breath, her voice steady though her heart raced. "How can I marry you?" The words hung in the chamber like a spark. Aaron's eyes widened. For a moment he thought he had misheard. But Myra's expression told him she was serious. "You wish to marry me?" he asked slowly. "Yes," Myra replied without hesitation. "Not for alliance, not for empire, but because I admire you. You treat me as a person, not as a title. You speak with honesty, not with fear. I have met many who sought my hand for gain, but never one who made me wonder what it would be like to choose for myself." Aaron felt his chest tighten. He had faced danger and survived, but this question struck him differently. He respected Myra deeply, but he also knew the weight such a choice carried. He walked to the window, looking out at the storm before answering. "Princess," he said, "where I come from, marriage is not only a promise between two people. It is a bond of trust, of shared life. It is not simple even for humans. Between our people, it would be even harder. Your empire may not accept it. My own council may not understand." Myra stepped closer, her silver blue eyes shining in the lightning's glow. "I did not ask for ease. I asked how." Her directness left him silent for a moment. He thought of the dangers. Nobles would surely oppose such a union. The emperor might see it as insult. Yet he also thought of her words, her courage to speak them aloud despite the weight of tradition. You would face your empire for this? Aaron asked. Yes, Myra answered simply. Because I have seen something in you that I cannot ignore. You do not bow to empty pride. You do not hide behind fear. You act when others wait. That is the partner I seek. Aaron turned back to her, his gaze steady now. Then I must be honest with you. I cannot give you wealth, or power, or ancient name. I can only give you myself, as I am. If you marry me, it would not be a union of crowns. It would be a union of hearts. For the first time, Myra let herself smile openly. That is all I ask. Their moment, however, did not remain private. Unknown to them, one of the attendants had overheard the last words through the half-open door. By evening, whispers began to spread through the palace. The idea of a princess speaking of marriage to a human was unthinkable to many. Some nobles called it dishonor. Others claimed it was a threat to tradition. At the evening council, several spoke harshly. A human cannot rise to our throne, one declared. It is shameful to even consider, another added. The emperor raised his hand for silence. My daughter is wise, yet young. I will hear her words in private before any decision is spoken. That night, Myra faced her father. The emperor was stern, his eyes sharp as steel. Myra, he said, I hear troubling whispers. Tell me plainly, did you ask the human to marry you? Yes, father, she said without fear. The emperor's face darkened. Do you know what storm you invite? The nobles will not stand for it. Our allies will question our strength. You would risk the empire's unity for a man with no name, no crown, no fleet. Myra lifted her chin. I would not risk the empire. I would strengthen it. For if our people cannot see worth beyond bloodlines, then we are weaker than we believe. The human shows courage and wisdom. I choose him not because he flatters me, but because he sees me. Is it weakness to choose a partner of truth? The emperor was silent for a long time. Finally he said, your words are bold. But bold words alone will not sway the council. If this human wishes to stand beside you, he must prove himself before the empire. He must face trials, as tradition demands. Only then may we speak of this again. Myra bowed her head in respect, though her heart beat fast. She knew her father had not forbidden the idea outright. That was more hope than she expected. When she met Aaron again, she told him of the emperor's words. Aaron listened carefully, his face calm though his mind raced. Trials, he repeated. I am not a warrior. I cannot match your people in strength. Strength alone is not the measure, Myra said softly. The trials test more than body. They test heart and mind. I believe you can face them. Aaron looked at her, seeing the trust in her eyes. He thought of Earth, of all the times humans had been underestimated by greater powers, yet endured by adapting, by refusing to give up. He nodded slowly. Then I will face them, he said. Not for crown, not for pride, but because you ask me. And because I believe some things are worth standing for. Myra's heart warmed at his answer. She had asked him the most daring question of her life, and he had not turned away. The storm outside passed, leaving the city glowing under the stars. But within the palace, a new storm was only beginning, the storm of change brought by a single question, and the courage of both a princess and a human to face whatever came next. The following morning, the palace was alive with activity. News of Princess Myra's question had spread quickly. Nobles whispered in halls, guards moved with more alertness, and scholars debated quietly in their chambers. Even as the city shimmered with calm beauty, a tension lingered in the air. Aaron stood in the grand courtyard, waiting as two alien officials approached him. They were tall, their skin shimmering silver blue in the morning sun. Their eyes were sharp, and their expressions left no doubt they were here to deliver a challenge. "You have asked to face the trials," one said in a calm voice. "The princess's wish cannot be fulfilled without the empire's judgment. You must show your worth." Aaron nodded. "I understand. I will do what is required." The officials led him through long corridors, past gardens, fountains, and towers. Finally, they entered a chamber that seemed carved from crystal. Inside, several devices, obstacles, and tools had been arranged. It was clear the trials were designed to test more than strength. The chamber radiated an energy that made the hair on his arms stand up. The first trial was a puzzle of logic. A series of floating panels displayed alien symbols and shifting patterns. Aaron could not read the symbols, but he could see the changes and repetitions. A guard explained, "You must align the panels in the correct sequence, or the chamber will close, and you will fail." Aaron took a deep breath. He studied the patterns carefully, noticing how each panel moved and repeated. Slowly, he began to move them in sequence, testing possibilities, undoing what failed, and trying again. Hours passed, but he remained patient, analyzing every motion. Finally, with one last adjustment, the panels clicked into place. Light filled the chamber, signaling success. The officials nodded, impressed, though their faces did not show emotion. "The first trial is complete," one said. "You have shown patience and observation. The next trial tests courage and adaptability." For the next test, Aaron was led to an outdoor arena. The sky above glowed with a strange light, and the ground was uneven, filled with obstacles, traps, and shifting platforms. His task was to retrieve a small crystal from the center of the arena. Many humans would have hesitated, fearing the unknown mechanisms. But Aaron stepped forward without fear. He studied the arena carefully. He noticed patterns, which platforms moved, which triggered pressure plates, and where energy beams crossed. He did not rush. When he needed to cross a moving platform, he timed each step. When a trap activated, he adjusted quickly and found a safe path. Halfway through, a platform collapsed beneath him. Aaron jumped, barely catching the edge, his heart racing. He climbed slowly, careful not to panic. Myra, watching from a high balcony above, held her breath. She admired his calm determination. Unlike many who might have relied only on strength, he used observation, timing, and clever thinking. At last, he reached the center. He picked up the crystal and held it high. The officials marked his success. "The human adapts quickly," one murmured. "Perhaps he is worthy." Aaron barely had time to rest before the final trial was announced. This test would challenge his spirit. He was led to a vast chamber filled with mirrors. At first, it seemed simple, a reflection test. But as he moved forward, the mirrors began to shift and distort. In some, he saw exaggerated fears, failure, harm to the princess, rejection by her people. In others, he saw false victories that tempted pride. A voice echoed in the chamber. "Only one who sees truth can pass. Only one who acts from heart, not fear or pride, can succeed." Aaron closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered Myra's words about courage, honesty, and trust. He opened his eyes and took steady steps, ignoring the false visions. He focused on his goal, to reach the center without letting fear or pride control him. With each step, the mirrors tried to distract him, but he remained calm, trusting his instincts and his heart. When he reached the center, a soft light bathed him. The voice spoke one last time, "You have passed, human. You have shown patience, courage, and spirit. You see the truth beyond illusion. You are worthy of choice." Aaron breathed deeply, relief flooding his body. The trials had been difficult, but he had faced each one without anger or pride, relying only on his judgment and honesty. He thought of Myra and smiled slightly. She had believed in him even when others doubted, and that belief had given him strength. The officials returned to the chamber. "You have proven yourself," one said simply. "The council will meet, and your success will be presented. Prepare yourself for what comes next." Aaron was led back to his chamber, exhausted but alert. He took a moment to rest, knowing the most difficult part might not yet be over. His trials had tested skill, courage, and spirit, but now he would face public scrutiny. He knew that despite his success, some nobles would still oppose him. Myra visited him that evening. She wore a simple gown, unlike the ceremonial attire she usually favored. Her eyes shone with pride and admiration. "You did well," she said softly. "I knew you would." Aaron smiled, humbled. "I only did what I could. The trials could not measure a heart like yours, only mine. You will have to judge me for what I am, not what I can do." Myra shook her head. "You underestimate yourself. Your courage and calm have proven more than skill. You have shown what humans can do when they act from truth. That is what I admire most." They spoke long into the night, sharing thoughts of their worlds, of human and alien traditions, and of hopes for the future. Myra's admiration for Aaron grew with each story he told. She saw in him not just a man, but a spirit capable of bridging worlds. Meanwhile, news of the trials spread throughout the empire. Nobles who had opposed the idea of a human marrying a princess now whispered in cautious respect. Some grudgingly admitted that the human had shown skill and composure beyond expectation. Others plotted still, unwilling to accept change. The next day, Aaron was summoned to the council chamber. He entered slowly, noting the many faces turned toward him. Nobles of high rank, scholars with centuries of study, and military leaders with long experience all watched silently. At the front, the emperor and Myra sat together, her hand lightly resting on a ceremonial crystal. "Human," the emperor said, his voice deep and commanding, "you have passed the trials. Your courage and mind are clear. But now you face judgment not by tests, but by the will of the empire." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some counselors spoke quickly, pointing out the risks of allowing a human such honor. Others spoke of truth, courage, and choice. Aaron listened quietly, feeling the weight of each word. When all arguments were made, Myra stood. "The trials have proven his worth," she said firmly. "But more than that, I have seen his spirit. He acts not from fear or pride, but from truth. I ask this council not to decide for him, but to see the value of courage and heart." Silence filled the chamber. The words were bold, but they carried strength. The emperor looked at his daughter, seeing the fire in her eyes. He knew that she had chosen, and that her choice would not be swayed by fear or tradition. Finally, he spoke. "The human has faced trials of skill, courage, and spirit. He has proven his heart. Let the council deliberate, but know this, strength is not only in power, but in the mind and heart. You have passed, human. Prepare yourself for the council's final word. Aaron bowed respectfully, his heart steady. He had faced every trial with honesty and courage. He knew the path ahead might still be difficult, but he also knew that together with Myra, they could face whatever came next. That evening, Myra walked with him through the gardens. The stars reflected in the fountains, and the air was calm. She looked at him with admiration, her eyes filled with trust. "You have done more than I expected," she said. "Not many could have faced the trials and emerged unshaken." Aaron shook his head. "I only did what was right. You believed in me when others doubted. That gave me strength I could not have found alone." Myra smiled, the first true smile of relief since the trials began. "Then let us face the next challenge together," she said. The human and the princess walked side by side under the stars. The trials had tested Aaron, but they had also shown him the depth of Myra's courage. Together, they were no longer just a human and a princess. They were two spirits ready to face an empire, to challenge old traditions, and to follow the path of truth and heart. And though the council had yet to deliver its final judgment, the bond between them had grown stronger than any law, stronger than any tradition, and stronger than any obstacle. The day of the council had arrived. The grand chamber was filled with light that shimmered off crystal walls, creating a spectrum of colors that danced across the floors. Nobles, scholars, military leaders, and dignitaries from other worlds filled the hall. Everyone waited to witness a decision that could change the empire forever. Aaron stood near the entrance, his posture calm but alert. He had completed the trials, yet he knew that winning the hearts and minds of the council would require more than courage or skill. It would require honesty, integrity, and the ability to speak from the heart. Princess Myra arrived shortly after him. She wore a simple gown of deep blue and silver, leaving behind all ceremonial decoration. Her eyes met Aaron's, and for a moment, the weight of the empire seemed lighter, carried by their shared trust. The emperor entered the hall, his presence commanding silence. Every voice and movement paused as he took his place at the front, his gaze sweeping across the council. "Today, we speak not only of law and tradition but of courage and truth," he began. "Princess Myra has asked for a choice that has never been seen before. A human has faced our trials and stood with heart and mind unshaken. Now it falls to this council to speak, and for the empire to decide." The first to rise was a noble of high rank. "Your Majesty, this is unprecedented. A human holds no claim to our traditions. To accept such a union could weaken the respect of our allies. We must consider honor above desire." Another counselor spoke immediately after. "Yet trials have been completed. The human has proven skill, courage, and adaptability. Should we ignore what we see before us? Strength is not only in heritage. It is also in action." The debate went on for hours. Some spoke passionately about tradition and pride. Others spoke with reason, pointing to Aaron's performance and his steadfast nature. Myra remained silent, her hands folded in front of her, her gaze on Aaron. She believed in his worth, and she knew that courage like his could not be ignored. Finally, the emperor spoke again. "Enough. We have listened to the voices of many. Now, the question is not whether a human can sit beside a princess, but whether the choice made from truth and heart can be honored. Human, step forward." Aaron walked to the center of the chamber. Every pair of eyes watched him closely. He bowed his head respectfully to the emperor and the council, then turned to speak plainly. "Members of the council," he began, "I am aware that I am not like you. I hold no noble name, no claim to ancient power, and no army of my own. Yet I stand here because I believe that choice should be guided by honesty, courage, and trust. I have faced trials, not to prove that I am greater than anyone else, but to show that I act with purpose and heart. If your empire allows me to stand beside Princess Myra, I will serve with honesty, protect with courage, and respect every tradition that is just. I will not claim more than I have earned, but I will give all that I can." The chamber was silent. Even the harshest critics seemed to pause, listening to the calm confidence in his voice. Myra's hand trembled slightly as she watched him speak. She knew that every word he said carried truth, and truth was the strongest power of all. After a moment, one counselor spoke, not with anger, but with curiosity. "Human, you speak well, yet can your people honor such a union? Will your own world accept it?" Aaron smiled faintly. "I cannot speak for all humans, but I can speak for myself. I have traveled far to reach this place, and I chose to act with honesty and courage. If the people of Earth respect such choices, they will accept it. But even if not, I will remain true to my word. Choice and truth are more important than convenience or approval." Another noble rose, skeptical but thoughtful. "And what of the princess? Does she choose this path freely, knowing the risks?" Myra stepped forward, her eyes shining with determination. "I choose freely," she said firmly. "I have seen his heart and mind. I have witnessed his courage. I ask no human to take my place, and no noble to set my path. My choice is my own. He has earned the right to stand beside me, not because he is human, but because he is worthy." A murmur of surprise spread through the chamber. The princess spoke boldly, something many had never heard. Her words carried not rebellion, but reason and respect. She did not insult tradition. She explained her choice in a way that commanded attention. The emperor remained silent for several minutes, his face unreadable. Finally, he spoke. "I have watched both of you through trials and words. The human has shown courage, intelligence, and honesty beyond expectation. The princess has chosen with clarity and reason, not desire alone. The empire respects tradition, but it also honors truth. I declare that the choice of Princess Myra is accepted. The human shall stand beside her as a partner of trust, courage, and respect." A hush filled the chamber, then slowly, the council members began to nod in agreement. Some with reluctance, some with cautious respect, but all acknowledged the decision. The nobles realized that courage and truth were as important as heritage. Myra's eyes glowed with relief and joy. She stepped closer to Aaron and offered her hand. "You have won more than trials," she said softly. "You have won trust, respect, and the right to stand with me." Aaron took her hand carefully, bowing slightly. "I will honor it with all that I have." The chamber erupted in quiet applause, the sound of recognition and respect filling the vast space. Outside, the city gleamed in the afternoon sun, reflecting the change that had begun within the empire. After the council, Aaron and Myra walked together in the palace gardens. The flowers glowed softly under the light of twin moons. Birds with crystal-like wings flew overhead, and fountains sparkled in the distance. The world felt alive with possibility. "Your empire will take time to fully accept this," Aaron said. "Not everyone will be pleased." Myra shook her head gently. "Some may never be pleased. But what matters is truth and courage. We have both faced trials, and we have both chosen. That is enough for me. Aaron looked at her and smiled. Then let us face the future together, no matter what comes. Myra's eyes reflected the light of the moons. Together, she agreed. The days that followed were filled with celebration. The people of the empire gradually accepted the union, inspired by the courage and honesty shown by both Aaron and Myra. Scholars wrote of the trials, nobles spoke of the human's wisdom, and even the youngest citizens marveled at the story of a princess and a human who bridged worlds through truth and courage. Aaron learned the ways of the empire, not by forcing tradition, but by listening and understanding. Myra showed him the strengths and weaknesses of her world, guiding him through ceremonies, customs, and expectations. Together, they discovered that partnership was more than titles or names. It was trust, mutual respect, and the willingness to act for what was right. In private moments, they shared stories of their worlds. Aaron spoke of Earth's oceans, mountains, and cities. Myra told of the empire's long history, its art, and its science. Each day, they grew closer, not because of duty, but because of admiration and shared values. Years later, when the empire looked back, the day Aaron and Myra were accepted as partners was remembered as the beginning of a new era. It was a time when courage and heart proved more powerful than tradition alone. It was a time when a human and a princess showed that choice, honesty, and respect could unite even the greatest of worlds. And in quiet moments, under the twin moons, Aaron and Myra would walk together through the palace gardens, knowing that the bond they shared had begun not with power or ceremony, but with trust, courage, and the simple truth of their hearts. The human had earned his place beside the princess. The empire had learned that strength was not only in heritage, but in spirit. And together, they faced the future with hope, courage, and the knowledge that anything could be achieved when hearts were guided by honesty and trust.